Hey guys, it's Tuck. Welcome to another episode of Women Play Football. This is our movement to help elevate the stories of the women playing tackle football across America and connect with the people like our guests today that are helping empower those women to play this wonderful sport that we call tackle football. We want to help bring unity and raise the standards for women playing tackle football across all three leagues. And today, our special guest is the AWFL 2026 Northeast champion head coach from the New York Knockout. And that's Coach Lou Butts. Lou, where are you joining us from today?
Rexford, New York. We're just outside of the Capital District in Albany area.
Awesome. I've never been. I bet the weather is a lot better than it is here from home base in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, we got the Canadian wildfires right now are kind of blowing in here, so it's like a hazy environment the last couple of days. But yeah, it's a little cooler at least up here.
I know what those are like because I used to be in Sacramento, and then my other office was in Reno, so I floated back and forth. And the fires up there were just terrible in California that would blow over the Sierra Mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's
my worst.
become almost yearly now up here. It's like every summer we get these. So hopefully this is the last time. But
Hopefully. Do they rake the floors? Remember when that was trending? It was like, if we just all went out there and cleaned up the forest floors, we could stop wildfires. So,
no, I don't think out here. No, maybe they should start in Canada though. I don't know.
They should start. We'll ask our friends. Speaking of Canada, you got to play MIFA, right? Twice this year in the regular season.
Yeah.
What's that like going up to Toronto?
It's Toronto area. They came here first game, and we went up there about mid-season. It's tricky, navigating the borders. The border crossing is tougher than it used to be. So I was nervous that, it was obviously in this game, we all travel on our own, with buddies. So I was nervous we all weren't going to make it, but we prepped really well ahead of time. So we got over there, and it's definitely an experience because the fields are bigger, right? Canadian football, the field's traditionally wider and longer, so they had to mark it off. So you're playing on a marked field. It was definitely a different experience. Two 50-yard lines is another one. So it took some getting used to at first.
I saw the rules update for the CFL. I don't know if you saw that in your feed on social, but they're moving the goalpost back. They're shortening the field a little bit. So I know Canadians are really upset because they feel like they're just Americanizing the sport.
Sure.
But, I feel like the NFL, from an American standpoint, we used to go up there and play some preseason games. Pretty sure the Packers were up there maybe in the last 10 years and they had to call the game because something about the field. But yeah, we'll see what happens. The Bills did threaten to go to Toronto. Didn't they play a regular season game in Toronto?
Yeah, they sure did. They were pushing for the new stadium. They're threatening to go over there. So
yeah. Who's your favorite NFL team?
Believe it or not, I've spent my whole life in New York, but when you're kind of in that formative years, or you're 8 or 9 years old, the '85 Bears were the team to be, and everyone loved them. So I grew up a Bears fan. I've been a diehard Bears fan my whole life.
So tell me, where does your football story begin personally? When did you start playing the sport?
Yeah, so I'm 5 years old. 5 years old back then, it was flag/tackle. You wore full pads, but that you had flags on. From there, I played football every year growing up through high school. I was fortunate enough to go down the road here to the University of Albany and play football there for a legendary coach, Bob Ford. And then right from there, I went to work at Sienna College for about 5 or 6 years. When I left there, I was the offensive coordinator. They were a small D1 AA school, I guess FCS as they call it now. And I transitioned to the corporate world for a few years, and then I got back into football around 2016-ish again. Through my now wife and my then girlfriend was in a charity game for Alzheimer's Association. She asked for help learning the game. So I was teaching her and she said, "You're really good at this." I said, I did it as a profession for 5 or 6 years. So I hope I'm a little bit at it. And then when I got involved more so with the Alzheimer's charity game, one of the players said, "Hey, I play tackle." And I said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, come on down." And I met the coach and his wife who owned the team, and they pretty much immediately asked me to coach with them. I did it for a season. I found teaching the girls football in the game and their thirst to get better at it was phenomenal and a joy to do. So when they decided they were going to retire, my wife looked at me and goes, "We should just do this. We should just take it over." So 2018, we took over the team at the end of 2018, and we've been here ever since.
That's awesome. So University of Albany is the Danes, right? The Great Danes, purple and yellow.
Yes, I'm impressed. That it's one of those odd mascots. So that's great.
I used to play as Albany because my family had a Great Dane, and so I would choose them on the original college football.
Yeah.
Before players got money. Yeah, I remember that. So I'd always ball out. Plus, I knew like because as a kid, education, at least for me, and I'm sure for you, it was a lot of memorization. So just memorizing capitals and being like, oh, the capital of New York is not New York City. It is
It's
Albany.
Albany. Yeah,
It's Albany.
for
What
sure.
position? What position did you play at Albany?
I was an offensive lineman. I played guard.
That's awesome. So protecting the quarterback. So in the trenches is really important for you then, I suppose, as somebody that's running the team and making sure that offense is hitting on all cylinders.
And for any good coach worth a salt, right? It all starts up front on both sides of the ball. Offensive line is the most important position, defensive line as well. That, that sets the tone and gets it done for you, day in and day out.
What was it day to day like being an offensive coordinator at a Division One level?
Long, back then, kind of that was in the height of the, how long can you grind is how good you are. So we would get in at 6 a.m. and during the season, and we'd probably go home about 10 at night after you watched film, practice, and recruited. And that, that went from August to around Thanksgiving. And then you hit recruiting season for 2 or 3 months where again, this is, really pre-social media, your Instagrams and your Facebook. So you were on the road recruiting about 5 to 6 weeks, 5 or 6 schools a day. My areas were like in all over New York State, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got some spring football in, and then you would do camps camps from the summertime until you hit camp again. So it was definitely a job that consumed you.
Do you think it was just the grind that made you want to transition out into the corporate life?
For sure. Back then, it was recruiting was more difficult because you didn't have you couldn't recruit from your phone, right? You couldn't recruit from a computer. So you had to go out. So that it was nonstop. I think now coaches have really trended a little more towards the work-life balance, which
Mm-hmm.
which I would have preferred back then. It probably kept me back in. Yeah, it was just, I loved it. I loved the players and coaching. I got the grind gets to you.
100%. And if you think about it, I think of basketball, like we were talking about, Kelvin Sampson, who was at OU, is at Houston now, but went to Indiana, and he got in trouble for sending, I think, Twitter DMs and text messages to recruit. And I'm like, guys, we took away scholarships because of Twitter DMs and text messages from Coach Sampson. Like it's just completely different now. What has been the hardest part about being part of the ownership of a women's tackle football franchise now, almost going on what'll be 10 years pretty soon for you and your family?
I guess the hardest part is just the awareness of it, right? We've been here
Hmm.
10 years. We've been the last 6 or 7 years super successful, but I can walk down the street today and ask 10 people and probably none of them will know who we are, right? It's starting to get better, but just knowing that we're around and out there is the hardest part. Because awareness brings fundraising dollars, right? It helps you out in the community. It helps the ladies out, but it's just one of those things that, we've been very successful for a while and people just don't know we're around. And I'm sure most of the owners will tell you that same thing.
Hmm. What league did you start off in when you took over the team in 2018?
But yeah, we were in the WFA back then.
When did you make the switch to the AWFL?
This year, this was our first year here.
Were you Division two or Division three in the WFA?
Division 3, and then we transitioned to 2 the last year.
So in the WFA, you can still play pro teams, right? At any level? Correct. So sometimes that confuses me when I see the scores come across like across divisional or levels. How are you fundraising to get all of your team down to San Antonio for the Emerald Bowl 3?
So it's a combination. I'm trying to do some on my own, and
Hmm.
as an organization, as at my own personal as well. I mean, we're self funded. We are all funded by the players. Where we have players pay a player's fee, and then that funds the game operations, our operations, the uniforms, so forth. So they're doing their own fundraising, and we've had some help from various entities. Kind of everyone loves a winner, so we kind of have a lot of attention on us right now. So that's been helpful. But yeah, everyone's kind of doing it on their own.
Yeah. No, it's tough, right? The Oklahoma Rage, our home franchise for the AWFL here in Oklahoma, there'll be teams that you think could, be playing against you in the Emerald Bowl, but just couldn't get all their players to every game. And it just costs them along the way because so many people don't understand that these women are paying to play this game. And then, let alone if they have kids or they get pregnant during the journey, there's so many people that I've had on this show and other shows where it's Like I've had 3 pregnancies through my 10 years in playing women's tackle football and trying to reset myself to, get back out there and grind. And it's so, heartwarming to hear their stories. But then I also feel like we as a country let down women playing tackle football because we're not giving them the support that they deserve. Because if you come out to a game and just as well as me, it's football. It's football and people are unfortunately are getting hurt, but pads are popping. It's everything that you think football is. It's that. It's just women playing, and they're pretty good at it. And your team is at 10-0, right? 7-0 in the regular season.
9-0 right now.
9-0. I just put a curse on you. Let's take the curse off. I've been to New Orleans. Let's remove the curse. Yeah, 10-0 if you win the Emerald Bowl 3, July 25th down in San Antonio. So perfect season this year. Now, you didn't get the number 1 seed because you guys also had another undefeated team in the Northeast Conference in the Columbus Mystics that you had to defeat. What has been the toughest part of your journey this year?
Just consistency for us, right? It's the fundamentals, technique. We run an offense that's fairly complex.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look it, but it is as far as technique and practice goes. Our biggest challenge as a knockout has always been geography. Okay, we talked about travel, right? When you and then in some of these leagues with the pro teams you talked about before, right? These big teams who have 8 or 9 million or 13 million in their metro area to recruit from are at an advantage. When you're not paying players and payers pay to play, recruiting where you stand is pivotal. I can't bring someone in, from a different state to come live here or work here. So you have to recruit where we stand. So our population has always been a challenge. If I double my metro area, we're still 1.6 million. So that is our challenge is getting a roster. So, I have players that come from all over, from Connecticut, New Hampshire, Buffalo area, Syracuse area in New York. I had a player from Ohio 1 year. I had a player from Canada 1 year. So that when we do that, we increase our roster, but then I decrease my practice time. They can't come to practice twice a week. I'm lucky to get them at all during the season. Usually we just get on bye weeks. So that's my challenge every year is to keep us, in the right mindset as a well-oiled machine with the limited practice time that we have.
Yeah, and the team you're getting ready to play, the Carolina Stars, who we got to see because we broadcasted that game for the AWFL in Oklahoma Rage the other day. Over 42% of the roster comes from out of state that travels to play for Coach Tia Hopkins and her franchise there in Charlotte. So I think that is a growing trend. I know that some players, they get somebody to personally sponsor them through the year. What is your recruitment pitch to try to get somebody to try tackle football who hasn't done it before?
Come to try out, meet our ladies. They're a great group of women who have done a great job, and they kind of sell it for me. We're a very tight knit group. Usually, once I get someone once someone comes to a tryout, 90% of them sign on to play. So just getting the tryout is the first step. And we do ads and flyers, and we go to parades and so forth in the community, and really kind of target folks and get them to come to tryouts. But once they meet our group and learn this is a really great game to play, and they meet my staff, I've been super fortunate to have a staff that I can plug into a D3 college right now and be successful. We have a Hall of Famer on our staff as defense coordinator. I have 2 offensive linemen who started all 4 years, my 2 offensive line coach. I have a former college coach and high school head coach as another defensive coach, and it goes on and on. So once they meet the staff and our women, it's an easy sell.
Have you had any women transition from flag football over to tackle football?
Tons. Like I said, I was actually a chair of the flag game for Alzheimer's, and we transitioned a few girls. My wide receiver number 10, Elena Lange, is now my flag coach. I'm an athletic director at a college as well, and she's my flag coach as well. She came from flag. One of our DBs came from flag as well. So yeah, it's not always an easy transition because they kind of fear it a little bit. But I always tell them I've seen worse injuries in flag by far.
Yeah. I'll tell you, all across Oklahoma, we're beginning to see, we added women's wrestling at the high school level, which has been the fastest growing sport in the state. Just look at statistics at the state, secondary athletics level. And then women's flag football has been added in the last 3 years. Now it's been mostly in Tulsa and Oklahoma City in the two major metroplexes for Oklahoma as a state, but has been instrumental in helping build up awareness. Now for the Rage, we haven't had a ton of luck of getting those flag players to stick with tackle football, but it is starting to be a funnel for that. So I think it's going to be easier to go in at the high school level, like you said, when you have to go out there and put boots on the ground and build your own awareness of, hey, we're a semi-pro women's tackle football program right here in your community. And I hope to see that more out of, our franchise as well as all the franchises out there across the three major leagues. It's just building that rapport in your community and letting them know there is an outlet. But we get a lot of women that I meet across the country that just play other sports, soccer, tennis, whatever it may be. And they're just looking for something when they're 25, 26. They're like, hey, I kind of miss that sisterhood that I had. And then, like you said, once they get out there, they're like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll stick
my
around.
best players are former athletes in other sports. My free safety, who probably could have played for me at Sienna, she ran track at Cincinnati. Yeah. So yeah, it's with softball players, scholarship soccer players, to come from a couple hockey players. So yeah, if you're right, they missed that sisterhood, and then once they realize how tight knit we are, it's fairly easy sell.
100%. I will say that I met Keisha Schweitzer from the Music City Misfits, so part of the BFA Division II out there in Nashville. So Keisha was telling me she actually got recruited at a Walmart Supercenter. So somebody said, "You look like you could rip somebody's head off." Exact quote. And she said, "Okay, tell me more." And so her first year with the Misfits there in Music City, and she's an All-American, and it'll be there in Canton
Yeah,
representing.
I'm not afraid to approach someone who looks mean somewhere and say, "You ever think about tackle football? Here's my card." That's done. No.
Let's go, coach. You've got to have that roster depth. Like you said, you've got to have roster depth and you got to have that commitment to practice and building that capacity as when you run a complex offense, like you said, to building that football IQ up. Because number one, we know women are smarter. I mean, let's just, two dudes in the room right now, let's just say it.
Don't tell
Women are
anybody.
smart. They're going to pick it up.
Yeah.
Sometimes we've been part of football programs where we can sit there and go through installs for a whole summer and it is just not clicking. So, but yeah, so I'm really excited about the future of the sport. But with your involvement, where do you think the sport of women's tackle football has grown the most since 2018?
Acceptance, right? When I first got into it, it was oh, is this lingerie? And I
Yeah.
don't hear that anymore.
Yeah.
I think so. It's grown enough to people know it now, and they know it's real football, right? Every person I brought to a game, and so my college teammates come up and they go, "Oh my god, this is real," and it is. But I think that general awareness has kind of grown to a point now with the three leagues that it's recognized as is real football.
100%. What do you think is the biggest weakness right now across women's tackle football as a sport?
I think it's the overarching desire to get paid to play. I think a lot of these leagues have a pie in the sky desire to get paid to play, and I don't think that's the next natural step. I don't know if they just don't understand or studied history, but there's only been two successful leagues, pros that have made it. That's the NFL and the CFL. And the
Hmm.
NFL struggled for 5 decades, right? It started in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. These guys had second jobs, third jobs. Coaches had second jobs. It wasn't a moneymaker. It wasn't your only source of income. It took 5 decades plus for that thing to start making money. I think that approach is a death knell for a lot of these leagues. They want to grow at a rate that's not sustainable. I think what the next step should be is let's get it to the point where anyone can play for
Hmm.
free, right? Let's
Yeah.
stop having women have to pay for their equipment, their pads, their uniforms, their travel, right? Get it to a point where it's like a high school or a small college where anyone can play for free, and then more teams will come along, and that cut down that travel piece. We discussed travel earlier. Travel's tough.
Yeah, it is.
That's one of the toughest part of this journey is the travel part of it. If you can get it to where we pay for, everyone gets to play when they want and anywhere they want, pop up in more cities. You don't have to travel 8 hours for a game. It's 4 hours, 3 hours, once we get to that, it'll naturally grow, 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 grow. Now, because you have X amount of more people playing it than before, because it's growing city to city. I think once you get there, right, then you can start to have the conversations of, okay, in these major cities, let's put a couple of quote unquote real pro teams in there, and then you can start that journey. but we got a long way to go before that happens.
Yeah, and we see franchises that fall during the season, that fold. We see them fold, and then and it's not always financial. It could be personnel issues that happen behind the scenes. We've both heard about those for sure this season. But it's so hard, I think, because what happens is we get oversaturated in one market just because it is a larger metro market. And it's like, okay, guys, but how well financially and like support ecosystem wise for these ladies are we doing at a franchise by franchise level? Why do we need 5 teams in Houston or South Texas? It's like, let's build it up. So, like you said, so that we have natural regional rivals. So, like in South Texas, right? We got San Antonio, we have the River City Warriors. Let's get one in Austin. Let's get one, you know, in, if we want to in Houston, whatever. Corpus Christi with Texas A&M. There's so much potential to your point if we fill in the map and lessen the burden on the women, number one. And that's going to lessen the burden as an ownership from your perspective and the owners across the 3 different leagues. If we are not making a team go all the way to Seattle from Tulsa to play, that's a big ask.
My first round playoff game last year was in Utah.
That's so
Albany's,
wild.
Albany's a long way from Utah. Let me tell you, if Utah comes to us, I think we probably win that game. But I had half a dozen girls get the late flights that fly in the morning of the game from Albany. That's not a quick flight. So it's, that kind of stuff is killer. So if you can get more regional, more local, the better off we're going.
Now there is a high density of teams in the southeast within the AWFL, and we do have. I think the Gulf Coast Mystery is now kind of reshaped itself as the Hattiesburg Lady Bison, and then the Mystery ownership group is now in Detroit, up north, closer to you than us now. So we've seen some things that have changed up, but I definitely think that's definitely the growth in the future. So
yeah, one of the reasons we decided to make the move is because we had other teams around us that were going too. The Connecticut team, the Rochester team, EFO was already here. Which, and I think I'll grow more in the Northeast too. Again, if you can get enough teams around 4 or 5 hours from you, the better off you're going to be for you travel. 4 or 5 hours is very doable.
So do you think it's going to have to take a merger or some unity between the 3 leagues to try to fix that geographical gap and help lessen the financial burden on ownership and on the players?
Yeah, or migration, right? But the tough thing with mergers and stuff like that is getting everyone on the same page, right? It doesn't matter if it's corporate America or women's tackle football. It's a tough sell across the board. So I just think hopefully naturally, that blends itself. Where I think you have like a college, right? You have your Division Ones that are from your big markets, right? Your
Mhm.
Boston, your LA's, your New York Cities that can sustain that type of roster for that long. And then you have your Division Two, Division Three schools like us, in smaller, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg type of areas. So I think if that would kind of fall on its side a little bit, I think that would definitely be the way to go.
Yeah, having a pyramid, kind of like over in Europe within soccer,
Yeah.
having, promotion, relegation, I think it's an easy sell. Like, and it's not automatic promotion if you financially as a franchise can't afford it, but there's an option, right? We'll kind of see that. That's my hope, but I agree with you, coach. Like, it's hard getting people in a room that are part of separate entities to come to, consensus to move forward. Right. Even though at the end of the day, it's probably going to financially benefit them if everything is moving in the right direction. And we all get the exposure so that it's easier to tune into one network to catch all of our games in the AWFL across the country. And that we have equipment for you guys to broadcast. Because as somebody who does that, it is extremely expensive to do these types of things. And like, we had a Wi-Fi outage because of storm. And so we're down to 1 camera out of 5. And you could just see me smoking a Marlboro off to the side, of course, outside the high school campus that we were at, just being like, why'd I spend all this money? It's not even working. I felt like 1999 all over again.
And I said to my staff the other day, the next person I find to work for us is going to be an IT guy.
Yeah.
Between the huddle cameras, the tablets on the sideline, the headphones, I need a good IT guy.
100%. So you guys have been on a grueling season to make it this far. You've scored the most points in the AWFL to this point. I don't expect any different now, knowing your background now as an offensive coordinator and an offensive guy in the trenches. I will ask this question before my follow-ups. Do you like to run the ball?
It's not so much a modern football anymore. The number one stat associated with winning was rushing attempts. I think until maybe 5 or 6 years ago that we started getting the spread offenses going. So yeah, of course. We love to run the football. That's our, if you look at our stats, we have 3 in the top 10 of rushing in this league, and another one right on the cusp of it, and not so much on the passing side. We're definitely we're going to open stuff up, I think, in this next game as far as different formations and passing. But I just think running is always first and foremost.
Do you have any John Gruden-esque play calls?
The long ones? No, I do not. I do
Like,
not. I do not. We may put Y banana in there at some point, but
that's what I
we
was thinking.
definitely don't have the lengthy verbiage. I try to keep it as simple as I can.
What players should fans of women's tackle football be aware of as you guys go down there to take on the Carolina Stars?
Yeah, for my team, they've been dubbed the Four Horsemen. My quarterback, Eden Messimer, fullback in our offense, Hannah Jennings, and then our 2 wingbacks, Katie Salisbury and Selena Collins, are excellent. My offensive line has done a great job as well. And then on defensive side of the ball, Ashley Selleck, number 13 is a captain for us. Kim Bork, 18 is a captain. And then the woman I was talking about who ran track, number 20, Savannah Ross, are the kind of this is the stars that kind of came forth this year. But again, we're playing great team ball, and when those girls have a down game, someone picks them up.
I look forward to connecting with them. Our team will be down there in San Antonio covering the All-Pro game as well as a championship game. I'm just hoping for good weather, but having lived in the South for quite some time, it's going to be hot. So if you see us over in the tent getting water, we're not playing. We're just hoping our very expensive cameras don't overheat.
Listen, I was worried. I don't know about we got to play this game at night, so yeah,
the All-Pro game's like 1:00. I think Commissioner Rod texted me the schedule yesterday, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a hot one down in San Antonio.
I'll be waiting in my hotel room until we have to come down for game day. That's for sure.
Just be thinking of me and my team out there just sweating, just because our whole goal is that's a massive opportunity for content to connect with people from across the country and hear those stories and hopefully connecting with a lot of women on your team. And that's the only way we move forward, I think, as a sport, is to make sure we're elevating the stories of the women who are playing and talking about what it's like balancing working, 2 jobs, raising kids, and going to school, all those things that from coaching football this long that can hold people back. But it's usually the people that you think, hey, how are you doing this? And it's not holding them back. It's fueling them to get to the other side of that adversity that just really kind of put you in awe. And I'm sure you felt that throughout your time in women's tackle football. We were just like, I don't know how you do it, but you're doing awesome.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's been, and again, I've always said football has taught me more than any classroom ever has, right? It teaches you teamwork and how to struggle through adversity and hard work and kind of grind. And so that, and these ladies are exemplifying that to the 100th degree.
What is a final question for you? And then we'll connect with you in San Antonio. What is the moment that sticks out to you for you and your family personally, where you know that you're doing the right thing in owning and coaching this franchise, where you felt validated and felt like, we got to keep doing this, guys?
I think the first time we made the playoffs down where we clinched in Richmond, Virginia, another 8-hour drive down to the south of the Mason-Dixon down there. And my wife was so ecstatic that we took a team that was for a long time. My first year, we barely got through the first season. We had 14 healthy players in the last game. It was like punt on third down. Let's just do what we can. We had our string quarterback, right, who'd never played quarterback before. And then to turn it around, we had the COVID year, and then I come back and turn that around to 6-0 and being headed to the playoffs for the first time. It was like we're connecting, we're building, we're growing, and seeing the light turn on in our players. Yeah, this is what football is supposed to be like. This is how it goes. That to me was, for my wife and I, who was the owner of the team, and I'm just a part owner and a coach. That was the light that, oh yeah, this is fun. This is what we're supposed to be doing. So that playoff win down in Richmond was the moment I think it all.
Yeah, I also think there's a team in Virginia that's called River City that you guys played. And then in the South, we have the River City Warriors. I think you played the River City Steam.
Yep. That was the first playoff game. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is, again, my pitch to somehow change the name of the River City Warriors to the San Antonio Warriors. So I will bring this up when we were all together as a league down in San Antonio. Yeah, guys, when I'm looking through the stat book on that website that has all the AWFL stats, sometimes I get confused, like between the Houston Doom, who have now left, and the Houston Power. Because I'm like staring at, pretty much it looks like Microsoft Excel with like little logos to the far left.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. So I want to say, number one, thank you for what you do for the sport and supporting women and what your family has done, taking on ownership. And that's not easy. And I know there are hard days to keep everything going and to get out there and hit the pavement and build up awareness and to build your guys is a bank account at the end of the day, so you can go do these things. So thank you for doing that. And I really think there's a lot of good people in this sport across the leagues and across the country that we can continue to push the standard forward and support these women. So congratulations on a perfect season so far. Get that 10th win down there when you take on the Carolina Stars. And I look forward to meeting you and your team in person and connecting with you more down there.
Well, thank you, and again, thank you for having this platform where we can build this awareness. So, yeah, I think it's a great thing, and I look forward to meeting you down there in about a week.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. So we will catch Coach Lou Butts and his team, the New York Knockout, down at the Emerald Bowl 3 in San Antonio. So thank you for joining us today on Women Play Football, and we'll catch you next time.